Hey, I'm Sophia. Before we start, go grab a snack and get comfortable for a bit. These stories take their time, and they are told the way I'd tell a friend late at night. I really hope you enjoy them. This story has one update on it and my own opinion at the end. Comment and tell me if you agree. Let's begin. I caught my fiancé cheating. I turned my heartbreak into a best-selling self-help book. My fingers were still curled around the doorknob when I heard the laugh. His laugh. The one that always got louder when he'd had 2 drinks. And then her voice. Soft and breathy in a way I hadn't heard in months. The hallway outside our bedroom smelled like the lemon cleaner I'd used earlier because I'd been trying to make the apartment feel fresh, like that could fix anything. My shoes were still on. My tote bag was cutting into my shoulder. I'd come home early from my sister's place because Liam had texted me, "Miss you, come home soon," and I'd actually smiled on the train, stupidly pleased. I pushed the door open with my wrist, and the sound the latch made was small and ordinary. Too ordinary for what I walked into. The lamp on my side table was on. Our quilt was shoved to the floor. Liam was sitting on the edge of the bed like he'd been caught doing something childish, except it wasn't childish. It was my life. A woman I didn't recognize at first was scrambling for her shirt, hair wild, cheeks flushed. Liam's eyes went huge. His mouth opened and closed like he couldn't find a believable sentence fast enough. I felt the blood drain from my face, so quickly I got dizzy. "Elle," he said, voice cracking. "Wait." I heard myself make a sound that wasn't a word. My hands started shaking so violently I had to grip the doorframe. "Who is that?" I managed, and my voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. The woman froze, one arm across her chest, eyes flicking to Liam like he was supposed to handle this. He stood up too fast, palms out like he could physically stop the moment. "It's not," he started. I laughed once, sharp and ugly. "Don't," I said. "Don't do the it's not thing. It's exactly what it looks like." It was a Tuesday night in early spring when I found out, and we'd been together for 6 years, engaged for 8 months, and 3 weeks away from sending out the wedding invitations. We weren't one of those couples who fought loudly. We were the kind who went quiet. We had routines, Saturday morning coffee runs, Sunday meal prep, Netflix shows we saved for us time, little jokes that made other people roll their eyes. From the outside, we looked stable. Inside, we'd been fraying for a while. Liam had gotten promoted at his firm, started working late, started doing that thing where his eyes were always on his phone, but his mind was somewhere else. I told myself it was stress. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself a lot of things because I loved him and because admitting the truth would have meant admitting I'd built my future with someone who didn't want it the way I did. The woman's name was Sienna. I got that later. From his stammering confession, from the way her phone lit up on my dresser with Sienna calling when she'd apparently forgotten it in her panic. In the moment, all I could see were details my brain grabbed like weapons. The way my pillow had been shoved aside, the faint smudge of lipstick on Liam's jawline, the open drawer where I kept my jewelry, my engagement ring box was sitting there like a cruel joke. I remember feeling this strange pressure in my ears like I was underwater, and the room looked too sharp. Too bright. "Please," Liam said, taking a step toward me. "Let me explain." Sienna slid past him, eyes down, clutching her shirt. "I'll go," she mumbled. I turned my head toward her slowly, like my neck was stiff. "Do you know he's engaged?" I asked. My voice was calm in a way that scared me. She paused at the doorway. For a second, her eyes met mine. She looked not guilty enough. More like uncomfortable. "He said you were basically over," she said, and then she was gone, barefoot on our hallway floor. Liam flinched like her words hit him too. "That's not what I said," he said immediately, too quick. "I didn't tell. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I stared at him. I realized my hands had stopped shaking, and that was somehow worse because it meant my body had decided to shut down whatever part of me could feel. "How long?" I asked. He swallowed. His throat moved like he was forcing something down. It wasn't. "How long?" I repeated, and my voice cut through the room like a blade. His eyes filled. He looked at the floor. "A few months," he whispered. The air left my lungs. My knees went weak. I sat down on the hallway bench because I didn't trust my legs. A few months, I said, like I was tasting poison. So while we were picking venues, while my mom was asking about dresses, while you were telling me you loved me. I do love you, he said desperately. I was stupid. I was stressed. It didn't mean anything. I looked up at him then, really looked, and something in me hardened. It meant something, I said quietly. It meant you could look at me every day and lie. He reached for me. I stood up fast, stepping back. Don't touch me, I said, and my voice finally cracked. Don't. He started crying real tears, and that almost broke me because my brain wanted to treat his tears like evidence of love. But I'd seen this man cry twice in 6 years, once when his dad was in hospital, and once during a movie. He wasn't crying because he'd hurt me. He was crying because he was caught. I don't remember packing neatly. I remember grabbing my laptop, my passport, my meds, the folder with our wedding deposit receipts because my brain latched onto money as a way to stay rational. I remember walking into the bathroom and looking at my toothbrush next to his and feeling this wave of nausea, so strong I gagged. Liam followed me around, talking like he could fill the space with words until reality changed. We can fix this, he kept saying. It was a mistake. Don't do this. Please. When I finally stood at the front door with my bag, he blocked it like a kid. Where are you going? He asked, voice frantic. Anywhere you're not, I said. You're my fiancé, he whispered, like the word had power. I stared at him. Not anymore, I said, and I watched the sentence land on his face like a slap. Then I walked out. I stayed on my best friend Maya's couch for 2 weeks. Maya didn't ask me to be strong. She just put water next to me, fed me toast when I couldn't swallow anything else, and let me talk in circles until my voice went hoarse. I went through phases: numbness, rage, bargaining, humiliation. The humiliation surprised me the most. Not because cheating is a reflection of the person cheated on, I know that intellectually, but because I felt exposed, like everyone could see the private parts of my life that had been handled carelessly. Liam texted constantly. Apologies. Explanations. Photos of our dog, Juniper, like a hostage negotiation. I'll do therapy, he wrote. I'll quit my job. I'll prove it. I blocked him. Then unblocked him. Then blocked him again. It was messy. I'm not proud of it. I kept thinking of the wedding invitations we'd almost ordered and feeling this sick twist of relief and grief combined. The thing that saved me wasn't a dramatic glow-up. It was writing. Not poetic writing. Not inspirational quotes. Just ugly, honest notes in my phone at 3 a.m. like, he didn't trip and fall into her. He chose it. And I miss the person I thought he was. And stop confusing longing with evidence. Maya is the one who said, one night while we were eating cereal straight from the box, you write like you're trying to talk yourself back from a cliff. I laughed, watery. Maybe I am. Then keep doing it, she said. If it's holding you up, keep doing it. So I did. I wrote like my brain was a courtroom, and I was both witness and judge. I wrote lists, what I tolerated, what I ignored, what I made excuses for. I wrote scripts for the conversations I wished I'd had. I wrote about boundaries in a way that wasn't cheesy, because boundaries weren't cute slogans to me. They were the difference between staying alive emotionally and disappearing. A few months later, a colleague at work, Nadia, asked why I seemed quieter. I told her, carefully, my engagement ended. She didn't pry, but later she sent me a message. If you ever want to turn that writing into something real, I know an editor who loves raw stuff. I should have ignored it. I should have said thank you and moved on. But I was at that point where heartbreak makes you restless. You can't just sit with it forever. It starts to feel like mold. So I met the editor. Her name was Val. She wore bright lipstick and asked me questions that made my throat tighten. What do you wish someone had told you the first week? She asked. I said, that closure is not something he gives me. It's something I build. Val nodded like I'd handed her gold. Write that, she said. I didn't set out to write a self-help book. I set out to write something that made me feel less insane. But as I wrote, I realized other women were living in the same mental maze, trying to be cool, trying to be forgiving, trying to shrink their needs to keep love. I started shaping the notes into chapters. Short ones. Practical ones.
No fluff.
Things like the difference between love and attachment. Why he's stressed is not an excuse. How to stop negotiating with someone who already chose. Val helped me clean it without making it sterile. I self-published at first because that was all I could manage. We did a small print run. I called it the quiet exit because that's what leaving felt like. Not a triumphant march, just a quiet choosing of myself in 1,000 tiny moments. Then a podcast host I liked, smallish, not famous, read it and invited me on. I almost canceled because my palms wouldn't stop sweating. But I went. I told the story in a measured way, not because I wasn't angry, but because I didn't want Liam to be the center anymore. After the episode aired, I woke up to hundreds of messages from strangers saying things like, "I thought I was crazy until I heard you." The book started selling. Then selling more. Then a lot more. It hit a bestseller list in its category for a week. Not the kind that makes you a household name. The kind that makes your chest go tight because you weren't expecting anyone to notice. Val texted me a screenshot and wrote, "Told you. You wrote from the wound and stitched people up." That's where I'm going to pause the story midway like you asked, because this was the moment my heartbreak stopped being private and started becoming public, and I had no idea what that would trigger in Liam or in me. Liam is the type of person who wants to be seen as good more than he wants to actually do good. He didn't cheat because he was confused. He cheated because he was entitled to comfort and novelty while still wanting the stability and devotion I gave him. His tears that night weren't remorse. They were panic. And Sienna?
I'm torn.
If Liam truly lied and told her we were over, then she's more collateral damage than villain. But her basically over comment tells me she accepted a vague story because it benefited her. Adults don't get to play innocent when they're choosing convenient ignorance. Maya is a saint in the most unglamorous way. She didn't give me speeches. She just kept me alive with cereal and silence and presence. Val and Nadia are the kind of women who don't just say you're strong. They hand you tools. That matters. And me? I had to admit I wasn't just grieving Liam. I was grieving the version of myself who believed love meant tolerating discomfort forever. The book's success is satisfying, yes, but it's also scary because now the thing that saved me is visible, and visibility always attracts people who want a piece of your healing, including the person who caused the wound. If there's a villain here, it's not just Liam's cheating. It's the way society trains women to be polite about betrayal, to handle it privately, to forgive quickly so everyone else can stay comfortable. Writing a book didn't make me healed. It made me honest.
Update. Okay.
So, the book taking off didn't just change my bank account. It changed the social landscape around my breakup in a way I didn't anticipate. First, Liam reappeared like a ghost who suddenly remembered he had unfinished business. He emailed me because he was blocked everywhere else, from a new address with a subject line, "Proud of you." That alone made my stomach turn, because it felt like he was trying to put himself back into a position of closeness. His email was 3 paragraphs of compliments, sprinkled with little memories like, "I always knew you were talented," and "Remember when you used to write in that notebook at the cafe?" Then he ended with, "I'd love to talk when you're ready." No pressure. It wasn't the apology email people imagine. It was strategic.
Soft.
Designed to make me feel safe enough to reopen the door. I didn't reply. Then he tried a different angle. He DM'd Maya on Instagram. Maya showed me the message, jaw tight. It said, "Can you tell Eliana I'm not trying to cause problems? I just want to clear my name." She made me sound like a monster. That made me laugh, like actually laugh out loud, because my book never used his name. I didn't include identifiable details. I went out of my way not to turn it into a revenge memoir. If he felt exposed, it meant he recognized himself in the behavior, which is not my problem. Maya replied one sentence, "Clear name by acting better. Don't contact her again." Then the mutual friends started acting weird. I got invited to a birthday dinner, and someone's boyfriend asked, casually, "So, did your ex ever read your book?" Like it was gossip content. Another friend said, "You must be so grateful this happened, otherwise you wouldn't have a bestseller." That comment made something go cold in me. I know she didn't mean harm, but it felt like she'd taken the worst moment of my life and turned it into a motivational poster. The biggest curveball was Liam's mother, Denise. Denise had always been kind to me. She knit me a scarf once. She called me sweetheart. When Liam and I broke up, she sent me a message that said, "I'm heartbroken."
I'm sorry.
I believed it. Then, after the book started trending, she called my number. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail that started with a shaky breath and ended with a threat. "Eliana," she said, "I know you're hurt, but this is getting out of hand. People are making assumptions. Liam is devastated. He's suffering. If you have any decency, you'll make a statement clarifying he's not an abuser.
He made a mistake.
Don't ruin his life." I sat on my couch holding my phone, frozen. Theo, yes, there's a Theo now too, but I'll get to that, asked what was wrong. I played the voicemail out loud. Theo's face tightened in a way that made me realize he was trying very hard not to say something that would make me spiral. I didn't call Denise back. I wrote her a short email. I didn't name Liam. I won't be making statements about him. Please don't contact me again. 2 days later, Liam showed up outside my building. I saw him through the glass door, standing on the sidewalk with a coffee cup in his hand like we were meeting for a date. My heart started pounding so hard I felt it in my fingertips. He looked thinner. His hair was messy. He had that familiar expression that used to make me soften, sad, hopeful, boyish. The expression that always made me think he needs me. I did not go outside. Instead, I called the concierge and said, "There's someone outside who isn't welcome. Please ask him to leave." The concierge, bless him, did. I watched Liam talk with his hands, pleading. Then he looked up and saw me behind the glass. He raised his eyebrows like, "Really?" Like I was being dramatic. Like I owed him access to my face. I felt anger rise, hot and clean. I opened the door just enough to step into the lobby, but not enough to let him in. The air outside was cold and sharp. My voice sounded calmer than I felt. "You can't come here," I said. He stepped closer immediately. "Elle," he said soft. "Please." "Stop," I said. "This is not romantic. This is invasive."
His eyes shone.
"I just wanted to talk," he insisted. "You made me sound like I ruined you." I blinked. "You did ruin things," I said. "You ruined our relationship." He flinched, then his jaw set. "You made money off it," he snapped, and there it was, his real feeling, finally visible. Not remorse. Resentment. I stared at him. "You're mad I didn't stay broken quietly," I said. He opened his mouth, then shut it. "That's not fair," he said, but his voice wasn't convincing. I leaned in slightly. "You cheated on me for months," I said. "You were going to marry me while sleeping with someone else. And now you're outside my home asking me to protect your reputation." Liam's face twisted.
"I was scared," he said.
"I didn't know how to." "You didn't know how to stop," I corrected. "That's different." His shoulders slumped. He tried for soft again. "I miss you," he whispered. "I've changed." I felt my throat tighten. Not because I believed him, but because a part of my brain still remembered the comfort of the familiar. I hated that part. I said, firmly, "If you contact me again, I'll file for a restraining order." His eyes widened like I'd slapped him. "Wow," he said bitterly. "So that's who you are now?" I nodded once. "Yes," I said. "Someone who protects herself." He stood there a moment longer, then threw his coffee into the bin with a violent motion and walked away. I went upstairs and sat on my couch shaking. Maya came over within an hour because I texted her 2 words. He came. She brought snacks and sat beside me like a guard dog in human form. That night, I finally did what I should have done earlier. I contacted a lawyer, not to sue, but to document. We drafted a cease and desist letter. It wasn't dramatic. It was just paper that says, "Stop." And here's the part one didn't expect. After that, I started feeling lighter. Not because everything was solved, but because I'd stopped negotiating with the idea that Liam's feelings were my responsibility. Okay. Now I'll continue and finish the story. Around the same time the book blew up, I met Theo, not Liam's replacement, not some soulmate swooping in, just a person who showed up in my life in a normal way. He was a friend of Val's, a quiet guy who worked in audio production. I met him at a small event where Val was speaking, and he asked me, politely, if I wanted water, because I looked overwhelmed. We started talking. He didn't ask about my famous breakup. He asked about my writing process. He asked what I was reading. He listened in a way that wasn't hungry. Over time, it became a friendship, then something more. The first time he held my hand, my whole body tensed like it expected punishment. He didn't react. He just waited until my breathing slowed. I didn't post Theo online. I didn't talk about him publicly. I learned my lesson about letting strangers and exes have front row seats to my healing. 6 months after the cease and desist, Liam tried one last thing. He emailed again, shorter this time, I'm sorry. For real. I hope you're happy. No manipulation, no request. Just that. I didn't reply. But I also didn't feel the old rage. It was like seeing a storm on the horizon after you've already reinforced your windows. The book kept selling. I signed with a small traditional publisher for a revised edition. I hired a part-time assistant. I started speaking at events, which terrified me but also reminded me I wasn't alone. Women would come up after and tell me tiny, specific stories. I left after 11 years. I stopped apologizing for having needs. I finally blocked him. That was the real bestseller moment. Not charts, but faces. And then one day my sister asked, "Do you ever regret writing it?" I thought about the restaurant booth where I'd once planned wedding favors. I thought about the bedroom lamp, the quilt on the floor, Liam's eyes when he realized he couldn't talk his way out. I thought about Maya's couch and Val's lipstick and the first message from a stranger that said, "I'm not crazy, am I?" "No," I said. I regret that I needed it. But I don't regret that I used it. Heartbreak didn't make me successful. It made me honest. The success came because I did something with the honesty besides hide it. Liam is the kind of man who thinks I'm a good guy is an identity he can wear like a clean shirt, even while doing dirty things. He cheated and still expected a wedding, still expected my softness, still expected the story to end with him forgiven, because he cried convincingly. Then, when the book succeeded, his real issue wasn't that I was hurt, it was that I stopped being controllably hurt. He wanted me sad in private so he could remain decent in public. That's why he showed up outside my building with a coffee cup like a Hallmark scene. It wasn't love, it was image management. Denise is a classic enabling parent. She raised a man who avoids accountability and then tried to outsource that accountability to me. Her voicemail wasn't concern, it was damage control. Sienna sits in the morally gray zone. Maybe she was lied to, but adults don't get to accept vague, basically over stories without checking when they're climbing into someone's bed. Maya is the real hero, not because she had perfect advice, but because she stayed consistent when I was inconsistent. She didn't romanticize my pain or rush me into healing. Val and Nadia deserve applause because they saw something in my mess and offered structure instead of platitudes. And me? I'm proud of the version of me who didn't turn the book into a public execution, even though part of me wanted to. I wrote to understand, not to punish. That restraint is hard-earned. The entertaining irony is that Liam practically told on himself by feeling exposed in a book that never named him. Like, sir, if the shoe fits so perfectly, it's because you're still wearing it. The bigger lesson is that betrayal doesn't just break your trust in someone else. It breaks your trust in your own judgment. Writing rebuilt that judgment brick by brick. The book being a bestseller is a shiny outcome, sure, but the real win is boring. I learned to protect my peace without needing the person who harmed me to agree with my boundaries. Liam can either grow up and sit with what he did, or he can keep chasing ways to look good without doing better. Either way, he no longer gets a role in my life story. He was a chapter. I'm not writing sequels for him.